Hello. Um, just grab my controller. Same dude, yeah. I just cut my hair last weekend. And hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I'm so excited to be here today because I've been to this conference a few times, but this is my first time standing on this side. And I saw some familiar faces, which is awesome. Right, so how many of you have joined last year's UX conference? Could you raise your hand again? Wow, quite a lot. Great. A follow-up question. How many of you still remember what you've learned last year? A lot of drop down. In that case, I think my topic might be helpful because what I'm going to talk today is visual is your superpower for remembering, understanding, and communication in design workplaces. And I will start with my personal story first. And this actually, maybe you guys did something similar. Have you doodled on your textbook when you were young? I did. I did a lot. People, animals, funny creatures, yeah, everything. So I just loved them. But then I stopped it. Why? Because people around me said, it's useless. Do something useful, they said. And I said, okay. I listened. So I stopped doodling. I stopped drawing. I joined uni, got a science degree, and finally I don't like it. Then I managed to teach myself design and get into the industry. And after 15 years later, I came to this lovely country. And I need to do all the things start over again. And I found a big problem at that time. Because I couldn't remember, understand, and communicate well just because I'm using a second language. Many of you might have some similar experience. And so I needed to solve the problem immediately. So as an ad hoc solution, I started to draw when I'm self-learning design. And the result was surprisingly good. I find that it's so useful, Everything become better since I started to draw. And the more I draw, the better understanding I have for those abstract concepts. We'll never lack of it in UX design. And the more I draw, the better communication I have with my peers. And also, I usually remember things I draw, so it helps me to have a better remembering on all the concepts as well. So, yeah. So now we have many problems in business scenarios, but these three things, probably the most common one: understanding, remembering, and communication. Let's check them in details. So understanding, this is a major problem. Information overload is not only the privilege for tech workers, but also it's a problem for everyone. We all want to simplify those complicated problems or solutions and to reduce the cognitive load and to remove the distractions and noises so that people can get to the important things, internally and externally. And remember is another issue, right? So as mentioned, do you remember a talk or a meeting you've done last year, last week, or even last day, like yesterday? Probably not. Even you took some detailed notes, or even worse, you don't even remember where those notes are. And communication, this is tricky because in tech world, techs, tools, and roles are always changing. And it's also quite hard as we talk about the same things during the business scenarios. We use the same words, but the understanding for each person could be quite different. Plus, remote work, that also increased the complexity level as teams spread out in different places, languages, and time zones. Right, so now we've got some problems to solve, which is great. And how we're going to solve it? Let's thinking as a designer or as a researcher, let's start with why. why visual works. And there are many research and findings to support, but today I just want to talk about 3 major reasons. So the first reason is about focus. Every second, there are thousands of things is happening around us. So if we want to interact with those signals around us, we probably got exhausted in just a few minutes. And we humans are involved to simplify things so that we can focus our attention and energy to deal with something important for surviving, right? And visual is one of the ways that we use to simplify things. By using visual language, we can remove those distractions because they are not there. Here's an interesting theory from the book Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, which is said that during a conversation, when you is talking to another person, you see the other person in detailed, vivid details, but the awareness of yourself is quite simplified as a cartoon face. So that's probably why we like cartoon, because when you see a cartoon face and you see yourself, and this is how visual can help us to simplify things. I have this example a while ago when I share a detailed design, like the hi-fi design, to stakeholders. And the reason I want to share this is to get through the user flow, like the wireframe and the logic behind the screen. But everyone just stare at a UI issue and discuss it for the whole session. It's not their fault, it's mine. It was mine, because I didn't help them to remove those distractions. Like in this case, the details are the distractions, so I didn't get my goal approved. And another example, if we want to use this analogy, for some people don't have a tech background to explain what a product design process is, and if you show those images, building a house and building an app, and people will start to think, the similarities between these 2 things. This is what we want, right? We want to focus their attention on the things we want to get through. But if you show them this picture, like designing an app is like building a house, and people will start to wonder, that's a creepy house. Who's living in this house? I hate this house. It reminds me of my neighbor. Or like, when will the Stranger Things season 5 launch? You get my point? So deviations, distractions, that's what we don't need. So reason number 2, visual is a token. So what it means? It means that we already have some icons in our minds to help us simplify things. So that by using those icons, you don't need to explain details. When you see that, people understand. And it's like a social contract, a language or a token, whatever you name it. For example, if we use a circle and 2 dots and the curve to stand for a smiling face, so that's common. That's a universal icon. So when you see it during a conversation, even you don't speak the same language, people understand, it means he's happy. It means pleasant. So it helps us to remove those frictions during the conversation. So that's the reason why visual works. And reason number 3, it's the way we think about things. According to a research by MIT, we humans are hardwired to process image much faster than textual information in the speed of 13 milliseconds. And also, another research said 65% of people are visual learners, which means you, your colleagues, your friends, your boss, your clients, probably one of them. And if you use visual during the communication, it helps the majority of your audiences to get the message clear and understood. And also, it just matches the way we think about things or the way we restore our information. So we don't remember things with zeros and ones like the left guy. And our brains is like a giant web with billions of neural knots all connected together. So if you can find the connection with a new concept like building a house, like building an app, and with something you already know, like building a house, and you can easily remember it. So, and also the other person can better understand and remember it as well. Right, I think that's probably enough talking about theories. Let's check some examples, how we might be able to use visual in design workplaces. And I'll share some examples when I'm working at Xero. So this is the first one, accessibility tree. What the heck is that? I don't understand. Yeah, that was my reaction when I first read the description, the definition of this terminology on the right. One of my colleagues, she needed to run an accessibility workshop, and she reached out to me for some visual help. I mean, it's really complex and abstract. So I spent some time to understand the concept and then created this illustration. I mean, a tree, why not? It has a tree in its name. So let's create a tree. And the result was really good. So people immediately understand this terminology when we show this image. And also later, they can follow up to see some details as the next step. Here's another example from a vision project, which we want to show how a customer's day of work in 2030. So we created a few scenarios to demonstrate, to describe how the customer's day of work and also how our product could be involved. But it's really hard to be reading those descriptions rather than just watching some images. So by creating those images, people really understand this. And we got lots of positive feedback from the stakeholders. And what I've learned from this one is that when you find it's hard to communicate, just start to draw, and it might be easier. It's a wrapping up project. I guess most of you already done the reflection for last year, and probably that not easy, right? Too many things happened. Where did I start? So many questions. So and it's even harder for a large team like Xero product design team. So for this one, I created another tree. Yeah, a tree, again. So quite common, and I love trees. And basically, we just use some keywords from our major projects have been done in 2022, and quotes from our leaders and awarded contributors. And the result was also quite awesome. Achievement was recognized, effort was acknowledged, and also the goal was communicated. This one is interesting. Imagine when you have a conversation at your family dinner and your 10-year-old nephew overheard you're talking about your job, right? So he just asks you, hey, uncle, what is a design system? And how would you answer that? So that was my drive to start this personal challenge by using simple language to explain UX terminologies in just 1 minute. I just try to see if that works. So basically, for a whole month, I share one terminology each day with illustration and one short video to explain it. And the result is that I got a lot of reply and comments from those non-tech people said, oh, it's really helpful. Now they finally understand what a case study is or what a persona is. So yeah, that's another example for help people understanding things better. And as mentioned, last year I joined UX New Zealand online, and some talks and sessions are really good. So I did some sketch notes and share with my colleague designers. And many designers find that some tips or some tools mentioned during the talk are useful for them, and they can easily find the things in details even after a year. So it definitely helps people to remember things. Speaking of remember, this is another example. So we had a session about time management tips, and I love those tips. So this is the sketch note I created and share with wider team. And as a reward, I got more than 200 happy emojis from Slack, so which made my day. And now you might think, oh, those illustrations looking good, but it's really time-consuming. I don't know how to do that, right? You probably think the same thing. No, actually, no worries. 80% or even 19% of my sketches are just some doodles or draft. Actually, like those 3 examples, it doesn't require some drawing techniques. But if you can run them down and provide some simple doodles, it really helps you achieve your goal to get things clear and understandable, such as how an architect works or what a design critic process looks like, things like that. I think from those examples, you already see how visual can help us at design workplaces. And back to my personal story, I used to think I'm weird, right? Because people said, oh, you keep doodling and don't talk to people, you're weird. And saying, oh, yeah, I'm weird. Until I read this quote from the book, The Laws of Creativity by Joey Confond. What makes you weird also makes you wonderful. I wish I learned this earlier. And if I have a time travel machine that I can get back to my 6-year-old time, I would talk to that little dude and say, hey, buddy, don't listen to them. Visual is your superpower. Visual is not only useful, it's beautiful, so don't lose it. Right, that's my personal story. And now I'm thinking, you might think about this question. I can't draw. That's great, but I can't. How can I get started, right? Is some of you thinking the same question? If so, the next quote might be useful. This quote is one of my favorite. Visual language is a combination of words, images, and shapes to communicate, understand, and or innovate around a concept from the book, The Doodle Revolution by Sonny Brown. And it's a great reminder for us that visual language is not art. It's just a tool. So it has some basic shapes. As long as you can start to use those basic shapes, you can use visual language. So back to the house example. Do you still remember the house example? And if we break this house down into pieces, and you'll find it's made from a few simple basic shapes like dot, lines, triangles, rectangles, and like circle and arc. Yeah, if you are able to draw those simple shapes, which we can call it the visual alphabet, you're all good to go to start using it to draw something. And now, enough talking. Let's draw something. So I would like you to bring a piece of paper and your pen, and let's start to draw something together. Are you ready? Yeah. Cool. Let's do it. Because if you don't have a pen, you can probably find some app on your phone that you can do, but a pen would be better, right? So let's start by drawing a rectangle on the top of the paper. Yeah, we've done that in Figma thousands of times, drawing rectangles, but this time you're doing it with real pen and paper. And now let's draw a little character. Let's draw a circle and 2 dots, another dot, and a curve. Now we got a face. Easy, right? So far, so good. And now let's draw a line and a rectangle as his body or her body, and 2 curves as his arm, her arm, and 2 lines. Now we got a character, right? Looking good. Now we can draw a similar one at the bottom of the page. So yeah, let's keep it simple, similar, 2 dots, a curve, and a body, arms, and legs. Okay. Now let's draw a few bubbles from the first character. And what I mean bubbles, just an oval or a circle and with a curve. That's all good. And probably another one. And one more. And let's draw a bubble from the bottom guy, but this time let's using different shapes of bubbles. And let's do 1 circle, 2 and 3 as a thinking bubble. Right. So now let's draw the final part. Let's draw a circle with an arrow inside it and another rectangle beside it. Cool. Done drawing. Now let's write down some words. Here is a title, and here is speaker, and here is you, and here is quotes, number 1, 2, 3, and here is takeaway. And here, let's write down below as actions. And we can get a few bullet points inside the rectangle. Now, do you see what it is? It's a visual notes template for taking any kinds of the visual notes from a conference like this one, right? So you can use it as a starting point, and you can go crazy, like add some hair or like a dress, things like that, or even the weather, raining, things like that, anything. So I really hope that you can create at least 1 visual notes from those upcoming talks in these 2 days. And it will be fun, believe me. And also, you will remember those talks, hopefully, for the next year. And you know what? Because at the time when you start to draw, you already unleashed your visual superpower. And that's me. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. And one last request. Let's take a selfie. Cool. Cheers, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of the talks.